Welcome in to today's reading. If you are new to my channel or haven't been here like very many times, I do tarot, but I also read energy. I read tarot more intuitively than anything, so that should give you a rough idea of how this is working. For the topic of today's pick a card, we are looking at are they self-aware, and we have 4 groups for you to choose from. So group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. Timestamps are in the description as per usual. These readings are timeless as per the rest of any like readings that are, I guess, in my history. So if that is something that you would like to go and have a look at or find a topic that sort of better suits your needs at this time, you're welcome to do so. I do personal readings. The only way to book is actually using the email address that is listed in the description. I do not reach out to anybody, so I would just be aware if you do get messages from anybody, it is not me. Okay, that being said, we have a bit of a general message that we're starting with today that is for all 4 groups to actually listen in on. And so the main thing that this was around was actually like the definitions of listening and ignoring. And so I had like a channeled message come through, and this is how it started. So we had don't listen to them, but don't ignore them. So the definition of listen, and this is just using like the Oxford definition, or Oxford languages definition that pops up on Google, like, you know, sort of the first thing that comes up for me anyway. So the first one that we have is take notice of and act on what someone says, respond to advice or a request. To me, it is what a lot of people refer to as listening, but it's almost like listening in order to like follow instruction or something like that, if that makes a bit more sense. It's like more of like a request is to listen, and then if you don't listen, like if you don't fulfill the request, it's like you haven't listened. Okay, so the next one that we had was make an effort to hear something, be alert and ready to hear something. So part of it is like, you know, are you actually paying attention? Do you have capacity to take something in at that point in time? Are you actively listening to what the person is saying? You know, sometimes we can be in our mind and we can be like really just ready to respond with something, or we have something in our mind that we already really want to convey, but we're like just waiting for our turn to speak instead of like just putting that to the side and waiting for something to come in. And so I understand as a person who kind of forgets, you know, different things like pretty quickly at different times, you may kind of just be trying to hold on to like a key point that you would like to communicate. And I don't know if that's something that comes up for you. It's like, there could be something here where like, I don't know, it's really awkward to stop mid-conversation and write something down like that. I don't know if that's something that you'd be comfortable doing, but it's like, while you're thinking of all this, you're missing out on listening to what the conversation really is. So even though you might like, and you could be used to being a person who is kind of a good, I want to say predecessor, I don't think that's like the correct word. You could be quite good typically at predicting where things are kind of going, or having a fair idea of what people are trying to convey, what the message is. The only thing is that even if you are right 98% of the time, you're still incorrect 2% of the time. And so unless that's like a percentage, like, and that's if you're actually accurate, because chances are not everybody is right. We all are human and make mistakes. Are you willing to commit to being incorrect whatever percent of the time because you're not willing to actually listen to what people are saying? You know, and it creates like a whole disconnect. Okay, so that's one thing. The next one that I had was use to urge someone to pay attention to what one is going to say. So it could just be like that whole call to attention. Now is the time to listen so that people are ready to receive, and that sort of thing. All right. With that said, we're moving on to ignore. So for ignore, it was a lot simpler. It was like refuse to take notice of or acknowledge, potentially like disregard intentionally. And then it also had like a subtext of fail to consider, and in brackets, something significant, right? So when they say don't listen to them, but don't ignore them, I guess my take on this would be you don't necessarily have to do everything they say or take on everything that they say, but it doesn't mean that we should actively disregard whatever it is that they are putting out, whether that's intentionally or not, right? Sometimes we can do that without realizing, because for whatever reason you don't give that person's advice or opinion or whatever it is they're speaking enough weight or credit. It's kind of like, regardless of that, there's still something here that's not being received in communication. So it's like, don't listen to them, but don't ignore them, okay? All right, that being said, we've gotten through that. Hopefully that helps sets us up for some type of context as we get into the 4 groups. I don't really plan anything into it unless I get the odd channel message beforehand, and it's not something that I'm called to do every single time. Anyway, we'll move on and we will get started with group 1. Again, timestamps are in the description box and we will see you there. Good luck, everybody. Okay, welcoming group 1. If you chose, I guess, the first card, then this will be your reading for today. So this topic is going to be, are they self-aware? And the first message that I was getting is like, you know, this person is getting lost. And so there could be like something getting lost in communication, or there's something in this person's mind that they're kind of getting lost in some type of like topic or conversation, or some sort of something they're trying to wrap their mind around. It's not like not coming to fruition. They're not having the realization. They're not getting to the end of it. They're not actually, it's like they're still trying to work something out, but it's like they could be missing the point of something. So they're kind of getting lost in like extra or different information in some way. Now, there could also be something I did get for group 1, an actual channel message for you guys, where this person has a hard time understanding you. So like, I don't know if this is something that they struggle with in general, but they at least struggle with it specifically with you as a person, okay? And so I don't know what that looks like yet. We'll see if that comes up later as to, you know, how that could happen. But it says, or I also got, they're not integrated with their own shadow, even though they have good intentions. So this could be like a very well-intended person, as in they really want what's best for everybody. But when it comes down to it, they don't know themselves maybe as deeply or at a level that you do. So you're quite integrated in some way, or at least more integrated than they currently are at the point that you're kind of having this video, you know, come across your feed, that it's like, a lot of the concepts are going to be quite bizarre or abstract to them, because it's potentially the first time they've really had to stretch their mind to think about it. So I think a lot of stuff could actually, has at least the potential, if not already is, getting lost in translation for sure. And there kind of is something here with this whole shadow aspect where it's like, I feel the need to really point out for some of you that everybody starts out at different places in life, okay? We all definitely have our specific own individual problems, and just because you can't see a person's problems doesn't mean they aren't experiencing them. A lot of experiences are not relatively comparable, even though in our mind we may try to rationalize or logicalize something to be able to kind of understand it better. And there are kind of times where it is. But regardless of what has and hasn't happened for a person at that point in time in their life, you know, even if you don't deem it to be something as tough or as impactful or significant or as hurtful in some way, to them at that stage of life, it's still to date the, you know, worst or most harmful experience that they have potentially had. So it's not really to discredit people here. I just need to throw that out because there's also an essence here where this person could have had some sort of start in life where they could have not potentially received as much at an earlier age. And that's not to invalidate other people's experiences. It's just exactly what has happened for this person so far, okay? And this could be a vice versa. You know your situation better than I do. Keep in mind, we don't always know everything about other people. Okay, so one thing that I am getting here is that, like, yes, there's some sort of, like, they might not know themselves very well. They might not know themselves very they could potentially be very scared of sitting with themselves or of getting to know themselves or looking at the things that they've done that they may be not proud of, or the way that they've reacted or behaved in certain situations and how they've handled them at the time, given the circumstance. And again, we're not really here to judge that. It's just kind of what it is. Okay, so, and I think, especially when we're starting out, that level of that first sort of step of like self-awareness could sometimes be the trickiest or the hardest, in the sense that it's very new territory and they're still trying to wrap their mind around it. Okay, so they could kind of naturally accidentally stumble upon this anyway, but there could be different things that are showing up in their life that are almost like little signs from the universe that are kind of like leading them on a little path here somewhere to some sort of like self-discovery in some way. So with all that being said, I feel like now is a really good time that we can start taking some tarot cards. Okay, so I do think there is something here where a lot of things that you say to this person, it could potentially look like certain things are missed or not acknowledged. There could also be something here where the information's really rich, or the view is very rich at times, but it could be like nuanced at a level that they're not really used to taking hold of or grasping, like that type of concept just at this point in time. So yeah, okay, the forest. Yeah, they definitely have some type of guiding compass that is pointing them in the right direction. I feel they're very well intended. I feel like they're potentially stepping into or beginning to access like their true north, their north node, their north star, whatever that reference point is for you that you understand. Where I'm getting the words like dutiful and abundance. So there is something here that like where it could potentially blur onto like dharma in some sense, where like as they step onto their path and they are fulfilling their path, being dutiful, that they will readily receive abundance from the universe in one way or another to be able to allow them to continue that work as well. Okay, so we know that they're a good person. We know that they're probably not quite integrated or haven't really delved into too much shadow work just yet. I do feel like they probably have a real world, or like a 3D world or worldly kind of view of themselves and as far as things go. So they may have a rough understanding of what type of person they are, what type of things they like, how they operate, what things they're good at, what things that they could improve in, what type of relationships they like and the things they find interesting. And they could, I don't know. I think there's like, they could be, I don't know if it's like a worldly intelligence. I can't ignore and getting something about potentially being a little bit street smart as well. So something there like that. Now, emerald seems to be important for this group as well. So just take what resonates there. It could be a birth month. There's like the gemstones that are linked to a birth month as well. So just take that if that resonates. Okay, that being said, I was also getting like sapphire for some reason as well. So, okay, anyway. So we have the 10 of Pentacles and Temperance. So, this is like a reiteration of this person. Could be like they are very realistic of the world that they live in, like the view of how that all works and comes together. There could be like a community kind of focus. There could be intention to build, whether that's in terms of community or like worldly possessions and security and everything, but also I just feel like they could be quite built up already or quite capable of being built up, or they have the goal or the ambition of being very built up in all those areas. And to some degree, I feel like this person would also see support networks as part of this building process. But for them, what this looks like is relationships that have a longevity and there's like a practical sense to them. I don't feel like this person is here to like explicitly use people, but rather the, well, you know, if I moved house, would you come help me move house tomorrow? And then if you move house, I will come help you move house. And it's kind of like a sense of looking after each other and having that community where we do help each other in that very practical, real world way. There's also something here of like what they want to be known for. Part of it could play into how they would like to be perceived, and how they would like to think and feel about themselves, as well as working to some sort of moral standard or guiding compass that they have set for themselves, where I did sort of get themes with this person that they could, you know, sometimes we can like want to see ourselves as like, let's use an example of being a good person. In our mind, what a good person looks like or the characteristics that they may hold could be very different to what the person next to us would, you know, contribute or characterize a good person to be. So for some people, it could be being very practically helpful, like we've already mentioned. It could be being very honest. It could be, if I know something you don't know, I would pass on any like information that I have that could potentially help you. Things like that. It could be I would be nice to you, I would be kind to you, or, you know, there's so many things that can look like. And sometimes it could also be that aspect of the shadow where, like, I don't know, this is dipping into a different energy. I might just take a second and just make sure, just check that we're like grounded in this and that we're all sticking together. So this are they self-aware? Like, is this person self-aware? I feel like they're going quite in depth. I feel like if you're new to my channel, it's probably a good time to point out that some of these readings do go into depth, or they do kind of touch on a lot of details. We do get different things. So much of the time, it really can be like a bit of a Russian roulette with some of the different ones that come out. But it's not uncommon for that to happen either. So if it feels like I'm talking for an age, you're welcome to sort of fast forward the video if you, you know, still feel like there's messages here for you that could be really helpful. I do feel the need to touch on something that I kind of forgot to mention at the start, is that when we step into this space, which welcome, I'm so happy to have you here, we do need to bring like a level of our own self-awareness and being open to the messages that do come through, and that some of the information that comes up, the very purpose of it will be different every time, or there could be so many multiple purposes coming out at the same time. But like, one of them could actually be to getting the word like enlighten, and that's not where I was going with it. Sometimes the purpose is just purely to be thought provoking, as opposed to exactly match your situation, where it's kind of highlighting something that may be going on for you, and it can be very nuanced. And so it's something to just be aware of when we step into this space, okay? All right, so going back to it, so there was like an essence of this person wants to be like, they want to internally feel like they're a good person. It's kind of built into part of their identity, in some ways maybe part of their ego or something like that. So I really get the essence that they are building everything in their life to be quite strong, but to also kind of continue on this essence of I am a good person, I'm a kind person, I'm helpful. There could be something here where they do want to be perceived as being balanced as well, so that they're not too like kind of quick to shoot at the hip, and they're also not overly drowned in their emotions or something like that. They want to be grounded, they want to be fair, all of that. They want to be like well thought out, but they also want to be in touch with emotions and in touch with their instincts as well. So I do feel like in some ways this person does not feel heard or seen by you, or the conversations that you've had, or something in your connection that's come up, because it feels like the more I talk about it, the more we get off topic, and they're kind of trying to push through their view of themselves and what they want, like, you know, the fact that they are well-intended and stuff, as I'm kind of trying to break this down so we can get a better understanding. All right, so I'm just going to take a moment and see what else we have here. It's just like, are they self-aware? Yes and no. It's like, yes, in a kind of humanly, like, worldly way they are. But as far as their own psychology, not specifically. Okay. This person could have a potential to see themselves as a person who could kind of do no wrong, or that they see that they had good intentions. So even if they missed it, there's kind of that doubling down on the good intention in some way. And they just may not understand that. I don't know, because it does feel like a strong miscommunicative energy. So there could also be a level here of thinking that, assuming that other people are on the same wavelength as them, or that people are more similar than they really are, something like that. So they may not need to explain as much to them, and that they could kind of pick it up and run with it. But then there's like a breakdown in communication because something wasn't just put out in the open. It was kind of yeah, I don't know what that looks like. It's going to be different for everyone. The more I talk about, the more awkward it feels. So we're just going to kind of drop that. It's something that this person might be like one area of life they wish they were more built up in. I don't really get that. I think they feel pretty happy and confident in themselves with who they are. So there could be in a level here where this person maybe they were very self-aware in most areas of their life, but like one of them could be that they don't realize that there's more here that they could learn in their life, or that they could be open to learning, and that maybe they don't know everything that there is to know yet, even though they could be quite accomplished or confident or competent in areas of their life where they've really had the ability to handle whatever it is that they need to that comes up at the time. So there's something to be said about that as well. I'm just going to see what else we get. Take more cards. Cool. All right. This person could be trying to work out how they currently feel about the situation, and it may actually feel kind of taxing or like a bit of a burden to them, or like they could be, there could be something about the connection where it could feel like it's kind of hard work. So I guess they're trying to work out like what the connection means to them. It could potentially have them feeling anxious in some way, or again, we did touch on feeling unseen and unheard. So I guess what they're trying to weigh up is like what their values are in life and what they really need and want, and whether something like this connection could really give them those things in some way. And I do get the sense that this person they could potentially be carrying a hard load in some way already. So I'm unsure. It could potentially be an inability to share with others, or to not want to look at the bigger picture. There could also be something here about they're unwilling to put down the load in some way. They may be taking too much on. They may be overextending themselves. They could be trying to take on other people's burdens to ease their load in some weird trade-off of gaining some type of connection or maintaining it. It's like they may feel like they have to do things like that to be able to have a good, genuine connection. They could feel lonely. We already touched on not feeling heard and seen. There could be something here where they could be a bit triggered by it. They could be a bit sad by it. Could make them feel anxious. They could potentially lose sleep, like kind of thinking over this. I already touched on anxiety. It doesn't have to be the case, but it could be. I think for some of them, they know that they're missing something and they can't work out what it is. Hence we said they're struggling trying to work out how they feel about a situation. And part of that could be how they feel about themselves and how they feel about the way they interact with the world and how they feel about the external world in itself. Even though on the surface or in a straight line, they kind of seem to know what direction they're heading in. They know what they roughly want out of life and how they want to be perceived and how they want to show up in the world. But it's like this could be the beginning of, say, a dark night of a soul, you know, knocking on the entrance. I just heard heaven's door, but I was going to say to like underworld type shadow work topics. So I actually did see one of the archetype cards come up. I'll flip through the deck and see if it is in here, if it's not in one of the, you know, it wasn't like the main icon card for one of the other groups. But it's actually called Underworld, and it's got like a bunch of long grass and like different creepy crawlies and stuff. And it kind of looks like, I can't remember if there's vines or different shrubs or something, and it looks like a lot could get lost in that underworld. And so it does line up with a little bit of a fear of kind of going somewhere like linked in with the forest that could be like unknown, or maybe it looks scary, or they're scared they're going to get stuck there and they won't be able to find their way out, something like that. I think this person could potentially be plagued with visions of the past or memories from the past in some way. It could potentially also be previous choices that they have made in life, and they are now having to carry the burden forward of essentially the results of whatever the choices were that they made. Whether it's perceivably deserved or not, it's not about that. If you are feeling like this is your own energy coming through, I want to take it away from the energy of feeling like you did or did not deserve whatever happened, but rather just acknowledging that you are taking on more than your fair share, and it seems to have caused you pain over time. And this could be really tough for you to kind of contemplate what that may look like to not do that anymore, or to put yourself first, or what putting yourself first actively looks like in life. Bingo. Love how that happens. So this is the underworld card that I was talking about. Lots of creepy crawlies, lots of different places to get lost and things in there. We're not really sure if we're going to get eaten or find things to eat or come out alive, or get lost in a maze and all of the rest of it, okay? There is sort of some analogy here that I'm getting to, like a leech or a parasite or something like that. So it could be a reiteration that this person is a little bit worried that they could be taken advantage of at different points in time in some way, potentially because they've been quite happy to take on other people's like responsibility or burdens in some way. Okay. I was actually getting one card kind of peeking out, and now I've lost it as I picked up the deck. But it was almost like a message for something, like a way that this person could show themselves love. So just in case you are this person, may be helpful. I'm not sure. It was kind of like spending time potentially pampering yourselves or doing self-care kind of rituals. The lady had like, it looked like makeup on, or like eyeshadow or diamantes or fake lashes or something like that. So it's like taking the time to do things that you like for you, to care for you. Yeah, this is it, the castle. It's like really protecting things on, like, it's protecting yourself, it's taking care of yourself, it's potentially pampering yourself. It's like, what's the word? Praising yourself, pampering. There was something else I was getting. I think it's just like making sure that you're taken care of first. Okay, anyway. So are they self-aware? I'd say for the most part, yes, but there's still a lot that gets lost in translation. And I feel like it probably, we did touch on how it's already to do with more of that integrated side of things, but there's also something here where they may not see a certain trait that they're kind of, at this point, still living out. And I think that this will be the beginning of kind of the rest of their journey, right? Their journey onto their shadow work and their realizations, and potentially breaking the cycle, that sort of thing. So that's everything that I have for you today, Group 1. Hopefully this is helpful in some way in understanding your connection, even though it did seem apparent that this person does not quite understand you. It's just a disparity in where you're at. I feel it could only potentially get better with time, but I guess you'll have to see what happens there. Okay, welcoming Group 2. If you chose, I guess, the second card, then this will be your group reading today for Are They Self-Aware? I was getting messaged something about like being guarded will get you nowhere. As we flip the card, we see that the card of the reading is the healer. And so, I guess there could be something here that you do not want to divulge in order to protect yourself, in order to heal in some way. I feel like this healer card, even though it's are they self-aware, you could actually be in the position of being showing up in this person's life in some way as being a healer to them, regardless of what that looks like. For others of you, this person shows up in the world in some way, in some type of position, or being known for having healing quality to them, whether that looks like being in, you know, the medical industry or health and wellness, anything like that. This person could just be a person who comes into your life and that will speak the truth to you, whether that is received well or not as well, and kind of getting like a venomous quality to it. So it could actually feel like venom when they're saying the truth, and it will come off quite harsh and it will not be what we want to hear. It could potentially sound like fighting words when they say these things, but there's something here that even though at the time you could probably be potentially quite angry with them, some of you maybe not, but I think you would later realize that although what they said could have been perceived as being hurtful, maybe it was brutally honest, maybe there was some sort of truth to it. So yeah, with these readings, just take what resonates. Don't let anything take from you. If it doesn't fit, don't make it. If it resonates, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all the rest of it. Now, there's something here that I think this person could be quite logical, quite clear-minded, potentially sharp, a good communicator. I think they could be quite observant as well. Like, they probably don't miss a lot, and they definitely could be a professional. They could be an academic. I just, even if they're not sort of considered in your mind or known for being an academic, they could be well written or well spoken or clear, concise communicator. Now, there's also something here where this person, they give me the vibes of a person who knows what to say, when to say, and what not to say, you know, in those times where they shouldn't. Now, whatever these qualities are that they embody have definitely been helpful to them in achieving some type of success here, even if they are simply seen or recognized as a person who is successful, whether they've necessarily met anyone's standard or not. And so, are they self-aware? I think that they are quite insightful. I think they're well reflected. I think they've probably lived more real life experiences that they've gained some type of knowledge or wisdom from that helps them see things clearly than what people would probably realize because of the demeanor and the way that they show up within the world. And it could be kind of like the healing quantity that we might not recognize. Again, unless they hold a profession that would be recognized as that. So the fact that they see things clearly and they speak very clearly, and they've done it successfully time after time, potentially for years. It feels to me like it's years. This person could be a little bit older, hard to say. But even if it is a woman, she could potentially come off a little bit like in some type of like masculine energy. I don't know if that could mean that she could potentially come off a bit cold or detached, because that's not really masculine qualities. It's more air qualities. But it could be like cutting out some of the emotional stuff, which can be like that masculine quality of being like objective and task oriented or something like that. I don't know. Now, so it's like they see clearly, they speak clearly, they're well known for it, they're well recognized for it, they've been successful for most of, you know, this time doing these things, that when they say something, even if it seems cutting cold or detached, or like they've not really taken it all into total consideration, I think they're quite well thought out, and it could potentially be quite healing what it is that they have to say, again, even if it comes off a little bit hurtful or venomous in some way. So now with that being said, I guess this paints a picture where you could definitely ask the question if they're coming off kind of harsh or cold or something, that, yeah, you may think, are they self-aware when this is how they come off? This is how I receive them. It's the way that they deliver their information. I think they very much are, but they're not really here to spare feelings. It makes me think of the saying to be, like being cruel to be kind. And as in, they're not going to let you down gently or delicately, although they potentially could be like a very well-spoken person who could be quite tactful or eloquent. It could actually be a case that they are not going to sugarcoat things. They do not want anything to get lost in translation. They're going to make it so clear to you that it cannot be ignored. It is set out clearly and defined. And in that sense, it's like feels very ignorant or harsh, but they are well thought out. And I can see that how there could be a disconnect and why you could come to a reading like this and have this person come through in this way. So I do feel like they are, I don't know, I think they're quite well oriented. Yeah, I think they are well intended. Like they kind of want good things. There's something about the way that this person does things, so they could potentially be strategic, or they could move throughout their life in a different way, or navigate situations differently to anything that you have seen, or any way that you would consider yourself likely to navigate a situation, even if this is things that, I don't know if it like leads into kind of people pleasing stuff, or maybe you are a person who's like quite, in some sense, attached to being kind and compassionate, and maybe you can deliver things very well, like messages to people very well, where you could let them down easily and you could spare their feelings in some way and still kind of effectively communicate. And so you're like, well, if I can do it and they're so intelligent or well spoken in this, why can't they? Again, there's something here where like kind of separating out that emotional space to just being objective what's happened in some ways can be very validating, even if at the time it feels very hurtful. It can be very helpful in that healing quality that when we later reflect, we're not really reflecting as much on the judgment or the emotion attached to the situation, but rather what is the facts, and not labeling it in any way. Yeah. There is something here that I do feel like they are very attentive to what they see. The fact that they do not miss much, they are so observant and attentive, may make you feel very uneasy and very unsteady. It could potentially make you feel peered upon, or I don't know if I want to say violated is the right word. Definitely let me know if that's what it kind of comes through as. But it could almost be like a little bit vulnerable around them, or something like they could pay a lot of attention to you. And I think this is something to just note down, that they are paying attention. So are they self-aware? Yes. And I think that there's some sort of what they perceive to be at least a higher truth, where them sparing your feelings is not going to help you. Yeah. Okay. I know, I sort of get the energy here where this person knows they're not being a bad person by the way that they deliver it. So just be very discerning when we get messages like that, we're not taking ourselves down a rabbit hole. That's not going to be helpful for ourselves, because I think in the moment when it's happening would be hard to tell. Maybe 6 months later you'd be like, oh, I understand the bigger picture now and they were right, okay? Yeah, that's actually everything that I have for you today, group 2. So are they self-aware? Yeah, they seem pretty self-aware. Take care, much love, and I'll see you all in another one. Bye. Okay, welcome in group 3. If you chose the third card, this will be your card of the reading with the seed. And this is, are they self-aware? So there is something, a message I was getting through here, that it doesn't hurt to be objective. Let's see what else we get as I continue to shuffle cards. Yeah, and we have the Queen of Swords with that as well, which is actually confirmation for me on that, like, being objective message, because she is able to set aside her feelings. She is able to set aside, you know, anything that could blur the lines and draw a boundary, or, you know, really have like clarity on a situation. I think what it is important to note is that she has the ability to be very focused. But again, reiterating, she's not letting her, you know, emotions cloud her judgment. So, are they self-aware? I'm hearing they're not, which is bizarre. I would not have picked that after what we just received. Are they self-aware? I think there is something here where this person does have a level of self-awareness where they would potentially plant seeds with you that over time would be quite helpful. So it's like they could be very insightful in that very focused direction. So it's like whatever it is they're paying attention to, wherever their attention is directed at that time, they are very focused, they see very clearly, and they could potentially plant a seed that would like do so well. It would grow for a lifetime, and it would have so many nutrients, and it would really be very fruitful and give so much back. All the things that it could be, but potentially they are so focused or so observant that they're kind of missing things outside of that focused area. Yeah. Okay, what's this? I'm all of a sudden beginning to feel very tired. So there's something here where this person may only have a limited amount of like energy, attention, capacity to have the ability to even be very aware, observant, or focused as it is. So it could kind of explain, if you could imagine that you have full energy and capacity and ability to just be observant and pay attention throughout the day to day. It's like something here could be very taxing to this person in terms of like, are they well rested? Do they have a lot on their plate? Is there a lot that they're kind of dealing with in the background that you may not realize that is taken away from their attention or overloading them in some way? So that when they do actually, this person makes me think that they would have to stop and they would have to give something its undivided attention so that they can really take in whatever is happening, so that they can actually kind of have a conversation or they can take action on some sort of situation. So it's like, are they self-aware? We did have no come through. Maybe that's something that they are like unaware of. It's like they may think that they have more capacity, or they may think that they have paid more attention than they have, but it's like they haven't had that level of energy or capacity for such a long time that it's really unapparent to this person how their ability to be able to kind of do that, if that is making sense. I think this person does purposely try to focus on things that will give them growth, that will do well over time. And so it could be a case that while this person is so focused on what it is that they want to grow in life, it's like they could be giving it so much attention that they're kind of taking attention that should be on other areas of their life and putting all the focus on this one thing, okay? And there is like, we have the Hangman here as well. So it could be like a waiting, watching, wishful thinking energy here as well. It could be, I want to say it's like, could be a bit opportunistic, but I don't mean it in like a bad way. I mean it in a sense of like looking for when's the right moment to kind of make the most out of something or to not miss out on a situation. But there's something here where it's like this person may have the ability to do something that you don't understand that they do. It kind of makes me think of an acrobat where it's like this person is performing crazy levels of skillful, artistic, or artful, tricks all over the place. So they could actually have a lot on their plate and they're extremely skilled at like multitasking in some way and making sure that they get everything done and having almost like the right level of attention going to things. But then potentially there could be times where they're doing too much or spreading themselves too thin, so not really giving something enough that it needs. But I'm also getting like a lack of depth here. So it's like maybe when they are stopping to give something attention, it's just not quite receiving the depth in that moment. But I think there's like, they're not getting credit here or they're not being seen for something. It's like they are seeing something that other people cannot see and they're not being seen for something that they do or that they're experiencing or have some sort of great ability. I definitely think if I have intuitive people that this person could be intuitive for sure. It is probably important for me to remind you that if this is sounding a lot like yourself, that you could be the person that we're talking about. Like, are they self-aware? That's come through in this energy, and if it does not line up with what it is that you were looking for like say a specific person, or you don't really want to hear about your own self-awareness journey, then you can always go to one of the other groups, just using the timestamps if there was one there that you already felt drawn to. So yeah, there is something here where this person is like very artful, very creative, artistic. I think they very much excel in something and it just may not be very well understood. And in some ways, it may actually, it's like, yeah, they may not have a depth in the moment, but there's also something here where it's like they could actually be quite deep, but they do it so artfully that it doesn't appear deep, it appears shallow. Yeah, and we have 10 of Pentacles here as well. This person could seem like they have everything in place. There could be like an inner turmoil or like an inner kind of thunderstorm or like windy kind of inner world or something. This person could be, experiencing some type of like depression, some type of haziness. Like they could, I think it's important to note that if you are not this person and we're asking if they're self-aware, I feel like there is something here that takes up so much of their time and attention that it really just limits their capacity. And it's not really about them choosing to be or choosing not to be or how far they are on their journey. Especially because like when you look at the zodiac signs on the astrological wheel, it starts with Aries as in being like the youngest sign, going all the, with every sign there's like an evolution or a different aspect that is embraced that maybe the sign before really wasn't looking at. And so every step through we get to Pisces is representative of the 12th house, which is also things that we do not see and that other people cannot see, okay? So it really could be very mystical, mysterious things that people cannot explain. Or it could be something about this person, wherever this person's 12th house is, like whatever's coming up in it. It's like there could be a quality to this area of this person's life that to you may appear like it's missing or it's like disappeared off the map in some way. Like you cannot see it, like it's not visible to you in a way, like some specific aspect of them. But there's something here too where it's like it is very elevated, They are very evolved, and they could potentially be on a journey that you might not understand, and that's okay. So, are they self aware? In a lot of ways, no. They don't have the ability to, or the capacity, or something with certain things. But in other areas, extremely elevated and evolved in such a way that self awareness would be, I feel, very much off the Richter scale, that it is incomparable and it would not make sense. So, like, unless you are on the same journey, or that is something that you have that lived experience in before as well. And so it would be very hard to relate or compare or contrast because there is not enough relative experience that you share in common. Now, there is something here as well that this person could potentially have. I was talking about things that would grow over a long time. There potentially could be children or something like that. So if this person has a child, or if they have a career or something that they are so focused on that takes up all of their time and energy, it could literally just be that. I don't know. It does make me think of like real world things and things that they potentially have to nurture, but I don't know how much they control, like how much control they would have over the situation. And when we speak of things in the 12th house, it, to me, for this specific reason, I was going to say reading, but it could be the reason that it could literally, they could not have control over in some sense, okay? So it could be something that, like, maybe, yes, they are, not self-aware in some ways, but there could be something here that you're lacking in your own self-awareness when you're viewing this person, where you're not realizing that you haven't accounted for something here that you can't see. It's like you may think you have the total picture of this person, but there could also be something here where you're really only focused in on one area, or I don't know. It makes me think that if you had a map of their life, there's either a chunk missing or you're only looking at one area in comparison in some way. And so there could also be something here where your 12 houses are not speaking, they're not recognizable to each other as well. Like, I'm not really sure what that is. So, but for those of you that are following astrology and everything, then that could be helpful for you. Now, there is something here that this person could have a lot of routines, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of like day-to-day duties or tasks that they are having to fulfill, lots of things and people to take care of. They could have, like kind of full-on careers. They could be working on leaving some type of legacy. They could be like cleaning the house. They could be like running errands. I just feel like there's probably a lot here in this person's life that they like could really keep them busy. Like, you may not see how they don't stop, and you may not see how they don't get time to meet their needs, and it takes up a significant amount of their time. Now, there's also something here that I want to kind of like flip this for a second as well. So it's like we've talked about the 12th house, but we've also got the number 10 coming through kind of significantly here as well. And so I do get potentially Taurus, or definitely Taurus, but potentially Capricorn energy. It's really earth energy, so maybe even Virgo. It specifically feels like Taurus to me. So it's kind of like the embodiment of having lots of stuff, or having like a rich physical life in some way. So it could talk about like the foods that we eat, and it could talk about like having lots of possessions, but it's things like, if you have a car, you're taking care of the car. If you have a boat, you're servicing the boat regularly and making sure it's in good condition and things like that. Okay, so there's like a lot of work being put into this day to day that's not being seen. Anyway, so getting back to how I was talking about, we were going to flip it. So there's something here where it's like something about this person's 10th house could be being highlighted as well. So this could potentially be part of what it is that you actually do see. So it may look very easy. It may look like there could be some sort of over or underestimation of things like when we talk about the 10th house, it's kind of like public reputation and career, which career can kind of bleed into and speak to financial sort of status as well, if you want. But it could be things like lots of social connections, or how people know you, like your reputation in life, whether it's at work or not, although it's usually career focused. So there's something here where I don't know if this person could potentially see some sort of pride or a lack of something happening in the 10th house. So maybe right now you might not be very career focused, or maybe right now you're not very money focused. Maybe right now you don't care about what other people think about you, or maybe right now you are not worried about your reputation or something like that. And this can be flipped as well, okay? So it's like we're sticking with the 10th house, but I'm saying that these characteristics could be flipped. So it's like, as much as it could be a case that they're seeing something lacking in the 10th house, there could also be a case where they are seeing like an excess in the 10th house. So they may think that you do not need to work, or that you earn lots of money, or that your reputation is really good. And then they're seeing, and it's like confusing them, because they're like, well, this person is so well known, or they have a good reputation, or they're like very adept in these areas. Like you seem to be able to like live your life very well. And then there's like this 12th house area, or whatever it is that's going on, that they cannot see. Even if it has nothing to do with astrology, it can still speak to things they don't see and understand, where it's like there's this gap missing, and they're like, well, you know, what do you do here? It's like, this all looks like it's working for you, so like what else do you do? You know, or like, is there this awareness? And they're very confused about it. So it's like, I feel like we talked about flipping it, but you could be confused about this person's sort of 10th and 12th house, if that makes sense. So yeah, just be mindful with these readings. Sometimes it does jump around, so only take what resonates here. You know your situation better than anybody else, but we do need to be open to consideration that sometimes we don't know everything that there is to know about a situation, and sometimes our own lack of self-awareness can sometimes impede how we perceive other people. And you know that it's just part of being human. It's just part of you know, experiencing life and becoming aware of that anyway. So just, yeah, take what resonates there. And there's not to be any like negative connotation here. It is really just bringing things to light and to awareness. Okay, so with that said, we sort of briefly touched on something sort of mystical. So there could be some type of like spiritual aspect to this person. And so that could be like some type of taxing area of their life. It could be very fulfilling, I don't know. But this person could be lost in some type of like spirituality or spiritual concept or spiritual lifestyle or way of living that you may not see or understand. Or there could be something here where, like, let's pretend, for example, that you're both spiritual. Not saying anyone is, just an example. Let's pretend you're both spiritual and you know your spirituality, but there's something about this person's spirituality that you do not understand. It doesn't have to be the same, and that's okay. And the fact that you know that there's something about this person's spirituality then like that you don't understand, that's kind of all you need to know until that day comes where like some sort of light is shed on it. Or if you have a conversation, I am getting something here about having like a direct conversation about it. So I think if you're kind of confused or mystified by it, or you don't understand how it works, I think it's like, instead of it's like there could be some sort of like confusion around being able to make a judgment or perceiving something here. It's like, okay, what we can do, let's put it down and let's just ask them. Let's just have like a direct conversation. Let's just ask the question. And it doesn't even have to come off in like a over assertive way or a judgmental way or anything. It could just be being curious. It could just be like, oh, I kind of want to know what it is that you know, or like why you do this or why you do that. And it doesn't really, like, I'm not saying that we take up all the air in the room, but it's kind of just being open to the fact that there are things outside of our awareness that are potentially happening. And I think it would make even more sense if in some ways you maybe are not inclined to look into like any, like you're not attached to spirituality in any way. If this person did have a spiritual side to them, that would make no sense at all, and I would understand that as well. And then even if neither of you are, it's like something maybe in their mind or in the way that their life has been kind of like mapped out for them that does not make sense, but it's because your paths are so different. Okay. And so I think there is like a higher kind of divine sort of lesson and teaching in this moment here, where it's like something about this person is planting a seed in your mind now for your own self-development and self-growth. And it's like, it doesn't make sense now, and it can be hard to wrap a head around it. You could have potentially like thought a lot about this, or kind of got lost in the thoughts that did come up. And if it wasn't that, you just, I don't know, you might have just struggled to wrap your head around it, okay? Anyway, and it's like, but why does this person do this? Or why do they struggle with this? Or why is this not happening for them? It's something that you just need to ask them, or you just need to kind of wait and see. That will click into place later in life for you, even if it doesn't make sense when they answer the question. If you're in a sort of comfortable, close enough connection where, you know, you feel like you can ask them a personal question like that, because this does seem very personal. It seems like something that like it's not necessarily out in the open, right? Part of it is obviously when we're talking about the 10th house and reputation, but part of it is really not, specifically referencing the 12th house. So it's like, I think part of it you'll find is going to blur or bleed into your path later down the track. So if this is to do with children, then maybe you don't have kids yet, and maybe you'll have kids later, and then more of it will make sense. And maybe you're not spiritual, and maybe they are, and then maybe later you'll come into some type of spirituality, and maybe it will make more sense, and it will kind of teach you or show you something. Or it could be like that, bringing something into your awareness or an awakening for you of some kind. Doesn't have to be to do with either of those topics, but it could be. Okay. I feel like I've just spat a lot out at you. And we're just going to take a moment to kind of ground this and see if anything else comes through. We might do a quick saging and see if we can just make sure everything's cleared up before we go any further. Beautiful. Cool. There could be something here I'm just getting as well, where this person's explanations may not make sense to you. So you may not, even if you do directly ask them, which I feel like it's not a bad thing if you do, if you've got that type of relationship, you know, you can, and still be respectful in the way that you kind of inquire. But even with the answer that they get, it's still, you still might not get all the answers that you're looking for, and that's okay. So, all right, let's see what else. Yeah, so I just asked the question again, like, are they self-aware? And I got yes. So we got like no at the start, and we got yes now. So I think there's probably a lot of areas that you see them not be self-aware in that are very obvious and stuff. And it could just be in day-to-day, like forgetting a task or something like that. It does feel or seem to me like we talked about, this person's very focused on something, and when they're focused, there could be other things going on that they're missing. They could be overloaded. They could have a lot of, this person could have some type of necessary need to they could have a big mental load. Like they may have to remember a lot of information that it's like, if you sort of both sat down and thought, like, where do our minds start at in terms of carrying a mental load every day? Like maybe your mental load's like this much and this person's is this much, and it won't make sense to you because you haven't had a mental load of that much before. Or maybe you have, but maybe it's been some time since you've had that. So, or maybe something about their situation looks really easy and it's kind of confusing as to, like, you might not kind of imagine them to be a person that has a big mental load. Maybe they are actually very skillful at it. which is something that I do see here as well. And we did talk about being elevated and evolution. And so there could be something here where the things that this person is not self-aware, they're kind of actively choosing, like they know they can only choose so many things to kind of be aware of and keep track of and where they want to put their focus on. And they know that there are just certain things that like aren't going to matter to them or make that big of a difference in the long run, or it's not where their focus is. So it's kind of like they are very self-aware that in some areas they are not self-aware. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question as best as it possibly could and shed some sort of clarity on the situation. Hopefully this is helpful to you all in some way. If this resonates, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in another one. Okay, welcome in group 4. If you chose the 4th card or the 4th pile, then this will be your group reading today on are they self-aware. And the very first sort of like vision that I was getting is a person doing like the scribbling, like a mediumship scribbling or a channeling scribbling in some way, so that they're allowing like a higher power or being or entity to come through and channel any messages that they may have for them. And I was getting a message specifically to everything that they know kind of comes through this channeling or mediumship ability that they have, where they are having lots of information passed through to them. So in some sense, this person may not specifically be self-aware, but spirit is very much enlightening them to a lot of things that either they need to be self-aware of, and bringing things to their attention that they may be missing. This person does give me the energy that maybe it is less about how self-aware they are and maybe more about how aware of their surroundings that they are. And I do, with this card, like the eye looks like you could interpret it to have fur, like it's the eye of an animal, and it very much makes me think of a wolf, especially with that kind of icy blue eye, that there could be a hypervigilance here. There could be a very much being drilled in to certain behaviors, situations, people, environments in this hypervigilant way, that they're missing some sort of other detail in the moment because they are in some sense struggling to be present. Yeah. Okay. So that being said, I think we are getting a message here about something about this person may be quite beautiful. Something about them could be appear quite untamed. So maybe they are kind of naturally beautiful, but maybe there's something about their appearance that is a little bit like messy or untamed, or like their hair is like loosely tousled but hasn't, I don't know if that's a word, I think it is, where it's like maybe their hair hasn't been brushed but it still looks beautiful, and maybe they like their hair that way or something, or they don't mind it that way, or maybe it's not about how they appear but maybe how it makes them feel to be able to wear their hair out, like some type of internal thing where it's not really about how they look at all, but it could be like being perceived as that. So there could be something wild about their appearance, okay? So this could speak to things like, we already talked about a person not brushing their hair. It seems very like hair oriented or focused. So it could be something like this person has dreads, or they have like perceivably uncontrollable hair, or maybe it is, I don't know, maybe it's hard to kind of manage. Maybe they are not in a position at this point in time to kind of, maybe they just don't care. I kind of get in essence they like this or they don't care. So it could be something here that you're kind of seeing about them that you think they're like not self-aware of their appearance, but like they are and they don't care, if that makes sense. So yes, they, in that specific instance, if you're unsure about that and that was a question that you had about them, they are very self-aware of that. And they're just not bothered, and they kind of are embracing that aspect of them, and they kind of like it. It like speaks true to their nature of who they are, like almost representative of how they feel inside or who they are as a person. There could be something here where it feels to them like it's akin to their ancestry in some way as well. Or a heritage or some sort of traditional aspect of like how they grew up or their culture as well. So it's hard to say. But there's something very beautiful here about it. And it's like, if you, I don't know how to say this without it. I don't know. I'm just going to say it. So there's something here where it's like this person clearly likes it and is happy with it. And if you see something wrong with it, it's kind of your problem, okay? And I don't, for some of you, I feel the need to say, oh no, not everybody here is specifically making a harsh judgment about it. Like, you might not have like any negative thoughts about it at all. It could just be like a wow factor of their appearance. And then for others of you, you could kind of be this person where you've come through in your own energy of, you know, someone's like, you're asking, are they self-aware? But it's your own energy coming through. And then you're getting this kind of scope or insider point of view from someone else that could think this to themselves when they look at you and they're like, oh, are they self-aware? And it's like, yeah, man, I like to have my hair wild and free, and that's okay. And so it might not specifically be about your hair, but something about your appearance, if that resonates for you. So don't try to make anything fit here, but that's definitely something I was getting come through quite strongly. So I'm gonna take, I just had a couple cards full of, I feel, oh my God, called to take them. So just touching on the hair thing, I feel called to mention that it just could come off kind of unruly. And so that could be the thing for some people that's a bit, you know, beyond their, I don't know, their process or something. Are we going to get another candle? No. All right, we're not doing that. I'll just put that aside and move on. Okay, so we have the animal, the healer, and the seed. This person is in some ways planting a seed in your mind of what it looks like to embrace their like true nature. So this could be something that, whether it feels relative right now or not, could come up for you later on in time. So are they self-aware? Yeah, they're self-aware about their appearance and, you know, how they take care of themselves, and they're happy with it. This person, they could come off or appear to have some type of like hippie boho aesthetic or something, or like very natural aesthetic, or lots of nature vibes in some way as well. I am getting that whole like eco-friendly, you know, natural resources as well. Okay, and with the healer, I think there is some sort of aspect or foundational aspect to why they live the way that they live is maybe less about how they appear and maybe more about well-being, or maybe in some ways like one aspect that could be quite healing. Let's say, for an example, a lot of women wear makeup. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. You do you, that's fine. And it can be weird if you are a person who wears makeup all the time to see a person who doesn't wear makeup do that. Maybe for some of you it's not weird at all and you don't really think that hard into it, that's fine. But it's like, maybe they don't wear makeup because it's like their skin recovery time or clarity, or moisture levels or something like that, there's like a lot more consistency there for them, where their skin well-being is better overall. Maybe for some of them, what else could there be? Like they could do, I don't know, there could be things like if they have a focus on being healthy, which could be here as well. I do feel the need to kind of like, I'm compelled to mention, like a hit on this person could be like vegetarian, vegan, or like plant-based things as well. So part of it is like good for the environment, part of it is like good for them, and that's the conclusion they've come to, and that's okay for them to choose that for themselves. But there is something here where this person could potentially take like elixirs, drops. This could be like touching on, I've had this come through a few times, and they usually, some of these things come through together for this like one person, and there's something about it that does feel relative or familiar. So I don't know how well you know this person, but I feel like this is not the first time they've probably come through in a reading for you, unless you are brand new to my channel. And in which case you just use your discernment. I guess you should anyway, right? So they could be touching on like homeopathy, naturopathy. They could be like just a healthy lifestyle. They could do like vitamin supplements and things like that, like dietary supplementing. There could be like the whole eating whole foods, organic foods. Some things like that they eat may look really weird to you, or it's like it may just appear vile, like it may just appear gross, and you're like, why would you eat that? Like, what is it like? Things like, I don't know, maybe kidney or liver or something, because there's like lots of like highly nutritious benefits in foods like that, but they may not be very appealing. Okay, so it may be like, oh, why do you do it? And it may not even be super judgmental. It may just be like, I couldn't do that, and it's just like a key signifier of like, or one thing that you know about this person's lifestyle that stands out to you as well. Okay. And so there's also something here that this person is like very grounded. I feel like they're very in touch with their connection to the earth, and that they are quite expressive in what they do, and they're quite happy in the way that they do things and the way they live worth, and they're okay doing that. Like their self-worth is still intact, even if they don't appear in a way that would appease societal expectations, or what could be considered attractive in some way. So there's that as well. There is also touching on essence of using natural products or doing things in a way that are simple or cost effective or something like that. So maybe this person exercises in ways where they don't go to the gym, and it might not actually be about money. I don't necessarily feel like this person is poor. There could be an essence of them choosing to be smart, but I don't feel, so this is a bit of a weird message I'm getting come through, but there could be a big emphasis on this person's money for some reason. But I feel like they're not money driven, if that makes sense. So it could be hard to confuse or consider if you are more like orientated to being a money driven person, but this person is simply not. So it's something here like how much they spend or how much they don't spend is not really like a factor for them. Maybe they spend lots of money in other areas, maybe they don't, maybe it's their choice, maybe they don't care. And so there's something here where it's like they could be quite bold and unapologetic in the way that they show up in the world. And for some people, that could potentially be a little bit triggering because you haven't seen someone show up in that way, and it feels so wrong in the way that you, compared to how you were brought up, that it's like a disparity in the way that you navigate the world. And I think hearing it like that could sound very much like, well, I wasn't really judging them for that, or I wasn't really thinking like that. But I don't think it's something that would be at the front of your awareness. It would kind of be something that you might recognize play out later on, or if you ended up going down a similar path at some point. So like right now, there is something where there could be like a difference in age. May not be. A lot of you are almost the exact same age, but maybe there's something in this person's energy that feels younger or older. Again, going back to things that you could consider that could be like kind of gross about this person's lifestyle is like if they eat lots of oysters or something like that. Again, like highly nutritious, but like maybe not something you'd enjoy. I don't know. It seems kind of weird that that's coming through, but it could just be like a signifier for you. But we did talk about plant-based stuff, so even touching on like pescatarian type of dietary diets or something. I think this person has like a goal in mind. They know what they want. They know what their values are. They know what they're going to do to get there, to achieve them. There are certain things that they're going to work out on their way as they get there. And they're very happy to do that. And they've got the space and ability to be able to. And I think that you might see them as a person lacking right now, but maybe over time you'll see them kind of come into those areas that are currently being developed but are maybe under the surface. Like maybe something that they're doing hasn't really achieved anything big at this point in time, and or maybe they're working on something that you haven't really seen. And so for some of them they could be really working on their health. For some of them they could work in a healing field or a health related field, regardless of what that looks like. And maybe they've only just started, or they're lying in wait of some type of like nutrients, or they're waiting for the big rains. They're waiting for something to happen that, or like a type of freedom to break free of something. And then when they do that, I think you'll start to see exponential growth. So even if it ends up being a slower growth, it could still just be a lot, or like they continue to grow for like a very long time, or they actually have very prolific growth if it's not very quick growth. And so there could be something here where right now what you're seeing on the surface, it is just kind of surface level, and it may appear like they're not very self-aware, but they are. But I think they're focused on something else that you might not be able to see about them. I think that would explain a lot more about them or their situation or their personality. I think there could be something here where it's either something that you just like haven't seen or don't know about or haven't kind of experienced, but it could be something that they're working on in private, or it could be part of them that's still developing, that they're like, so yeah, I think they're self-aware in everything we've spoken of so far. But part of it is that they may not even realize how their own development will come to fruition later. So in some sense, like maybe they do not have an awareness of how they will develop over time. And that would be kind of hard for them to predict if that's not something they have control over. I feel like not a lot of people, like you can actively take steps and plan to do things and you can be committed and show up, but if you all of a sudden experience some type of disabling event, it can very much hinder your process. So there's a lot that we can't account for, and I think that this person's just too aware of that, and they're not really willing to put all of their eggs in one basket or something like that. And so yeah, I don't know. There feels like a disconnect in values between the two of you more than a lack of self-awareness on their behalf. But what I'm going to do is take some more cards and see if we can kind of build on this or get more information on maybe what the disconnect is, or maybe there could be another area or level of like self-awareness that like something's going on there that we haven't touched on. Hopefully we get confirmation. There's also something here where this person could have been greatly affected by things that have happened in their life. And so maybe like their self-awareness is kind of focused on things that you can't see, which would make sense, like they're under the surface. We did kind of touch on that, but it could be things like previous connections have affected them in such a way that their self-awareness is like maybe in conversation, I don't know how to explain it. Like maybe they come off as a person who has a hard time having a conversation. So they could appear as though they're not very self-aware, but there could be something here that's more like trauma related, where they're very aware of how the conversation went. But I don't know, or maybe, what am I trying to say? They're like more focused on like the connection. I don't know, I'm starting to lose it now. I'm just going to see if I can bring it back to what I was getting. It's like there could be something where they appear like they're not very self-aware of how the conversation goes, but they are. But like maybe it comes off like they're not because of how it's delivered, but they're just like kind of focused on this traumatic thing that happened. So they are very self-aware, but they probably don't have like a lot of control over how they're perceived or how they communicate in that way, if that makes sense. So like they could have things outside of themselves that have impacted them or left lasting like changes, effects on them that may make them seem unaware, like they're not aware of themselves or how they come across, but there's an essence where they may not have a lot of control. So let's take what resonates there. Okay. So we also have the Ace of Swords, so it's kind of reiterating like a truth here. I think this person is so painfully, keenly self-aware that it probably hurts, right? And we also have the Wheel of Fortune, which really speaks to that growth that we talked about as well. It potentially could also touch on like a rapid development or a spiritual aspect in some way as well. But big expansion. So there's something here where it's like they're in a phase of growing that we've talked about so much, but I don't think they're ever going to stop growing. And it just may be different to the ways that you grow or that you would like to grow or the direction that you would head in. In some ways, for this person, like spirit could have intervened and redirected their pathway as well, because it can sometimes kind of be like a bit of a wild card here as opposed to a growth. So there could be something like, we don't know, I think they don't know where they're going to end up, but they're trusting part of the process and doing the work in areas they can control to kind of grow where they can. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm just going to make sure there's nothing else here that I've missed before we move on. I don't know, I feel like for some of you, you may not totally understand the message that's come through. So I don't know how much more there. It could be a case of like, there is a disconnect in ability to understand the situation. There could be things that have happened in this person's history that you may not be able to see. I think there could be just like a wild card or a variable here that's unaccounted for. There could be something that like, I don't know. I think to me, it feels like a lot of what you're seeing is on the surface, but not really like their inner world or in their subconscious or something. Okay, what else do we have here? I'm hearing something about like the water bearer takes turns. And so what this could speak to is like the ability to hold space for a person. And so there could be some sort of message here to take turns in holding space for each other. So this could be a friend, or this could be a person that you like want to. There could be something here where you see this person needs healing and that you want to see them grow and do well over time. But there's something here where you may think of this person as undeveloped in some way, or like they have a lack of awareness, again, that we touched on. But it's like, I've just lost it again. Why does this keep happening? Maybe for some of you, it's like every time you think that you're closer to it, it's like you lose it, or you like realize that it's not what you thought it was or something. There could be something here where there's something with this person. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Hold on. Okay, I don't know if this is, I don't feel like I'm doing a bad job of explaining this because of the messages that I'm getting come through and how I'm kind of communicating them. Seems to me like it's kind of straightforward, but it does feel like there's a disconnect in the understanding here. Going back to the water bearer thing, so there is something here where there needs to be the ability to take turns in holding space. And so there could be something here that this person does that is seemingly invisible, or that you don't understand that they're doing it, so that like you or another person has the ability to kind of pour out their emotions or share like emotional experiences or something like that, where they can be seen, heard, felt, validated, all of those things. But then there's something here where like there comes a time where like you would have to hold space, and this could be vice versa, right? You could be on either side of this, I don't know, where it's like your turn to hold space for this person so that they can kind of pour out. And maybe it's been a case so far where I don't know like how long this connection is, or if this is only built off like recent interactions. This could have been like I would say for this to come through in this specific reading, this seems like you may have seen or talked to them in the kind of recent time. It doesn't seem like something that would be from years ago. I could be wrong. Like, definitely let me know for sure. But there's something here where maybe what you've witnessed so far is only really their ability to carry forward and hold space. And maybe there's something here where you haven't seen, if it wasn't you haven't seen someone else hold space for this person. You've only seen how like they have held space for others. I don't know. It's like there's two things here. One is that you've seen how they've held space for others to such a degree, it seems so natural that like, why would we question anything else other than exactly how we see them show up in the world? But the other thing is that it's like you may not understand their total situation or their struggles or what they carry because the space hasn't been given to them in some way. And so the thing is too is that I feel like with this group, I think you might genuinely be curious, and I think you may want to extend that to them, or you may have felt like you've tried, or there's been a moment where, like, I don't know, maybe you thought you were holding space for them in some way, but like maybe there was something kind of impeding the space. Like, I don't know if that was like other people, maybe the timing wasn't right. It could have been something where this person was like not well at the time, like they could have been sick or something, or tired, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, let's see, anything else here for group 4? Okay, I think they're just kind of trying to tell me to wrap it up here now, because I don't feel, or they don't feel like any extra information at this point would be helpful. So this could be something that like maybe you check back in over time as the situation has progressed, or your experiences or connection with this person has progressed in some way, and you may find that you are drawn into a different group in time, which will kind of explain more. Or if you watch the same reading, then you might be able to connect the dots between what was kind of happening with what was coming through in the reading in a way that actually makes sense of what was trying to come through. So this is a bit of an odd one, because I don't usually get messages like that where I feel like it's not being understood. So are they self-aware? Yeah, I would say yes, they are. Okay, guys, that's everything that I have for you today for this group reading. Hopefully this is helpful and insightful to you, or gives some sort of clarity. If this resonated for you, definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in another one. Take care.